Morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today in our Action Bible, we have three little stories that we're going to read. I'm going to talk mostly about the first two because the first two really contrast with each other. They have very different points, very different messages. They're about very different people. So the first story today is the story of Samson. And you may have bumped into Samson along the way. It's a fun story. He's got the real long hair and the immense strength given to him by God. But Samson is, last week I said the judges were kind of like heroes that God raised up. But Samson, he's not really a hero. Samson is lustful. He is impulsive. He doesn't control himself very well, and he's very violent. And God uses him anyhow. And there's something important in there that, again, like we said last week, the important thing is not the great strength of Samson, but that it is the Lord who gave that strength to Samson and the Lord who fights through him. When he breaks the rules that God had given him and he tells Delilah about his hair, of course, he loses his strength. So it's not about Samson being such a mighty hero. It's about God who empowers him and God who fights through him. And because Samson is such an unlikely instrument of God's work, we're reminded that God can use any tool. Right, so there's a story where Samson grabs the jawbone of a dead donkey and he kills Philistines with it. So nothing is so weak and unimpressive, nothing is so unimportant that God can't accomplish his purposes through it. And I think that's something important for you to think about. God can accomplish his purposes through you, even if you don't think that you really amount to much, that you're very important. So a lot going on in Samson. The next story is in the Bible especially, just a beautiful little love story. It is the story of Ruth. Ruth is not an Israelite at all. She is from Moab, and yet she comes across as more dedicated to the God of Israel than a lot of the judges were, especially Samson. And she bumps into a man named Boaz, and they eventually get married. And Boaz, too, is this very faithful man. He knows the laws of the Lord, and he strives to do the laws of the Lord. And it's really a beautiful sort of a difference with the story of the judges. Here are people who are doing what God wanted them to do. And not incidentally, they are part of the story of God's salvation. At the very end, pay careful attention to who Boaz and Ruth's descendant is. You can find it in the story for yourself. Lastly today, you'll start reading a little bit about the story of Samuel. Samuel, the last of the judges, kind of the transition into a different period in Israel's life. We'll hear more about Samuel next week. I look forward to seeing you then.